Hello everyone, Ember here, and welcome back to a new video. In this one I'd like to take a look at the various different Dragonites in GLC. As always, let me know if you have any suggestions for future Pokemon that you'd like to see covered in this style of video. So what is GLC? A very quick recap, or I guess introduction. We'll keep this very brief, try and make these videos for GLC players, but very brief introduction. It's a single prize only format with no Roboxes allowed, so no EX, no V-Stars, nothing like that. It is singleton, except basic energy, so you can play as many basic energy as you feel like, but it is singleton, so something like a Dragonite, you could only play one Dratini, one Dragonair, one Dragonite, and only one type per deck. So with dragons, this is extra annoying because dragon Pokemon typically have weird attack costs and very rarely align in their attack costs. So you'll find yourself playing a lot of different basic energy in a dragon deck usually. So yeah, that is GLC in a nutshell, very brief nutshell. But yeah, on with the Dragonites. I would like to start though with some Dragonair support. If you're just looking for the best Dragonair to play, I honestly think Dragonair, the first one from Sun and Moon on the far left here with Dragon's Wish, might be the best for most of these Dragonites if you're trying to make them work. It is a bit risky because, of course, the opponent could swing into Dragonair after you use the attack and KO it, but it is a risk that you might have to take and a risk you might be able to take in some situations, but either way, I still think this is one of the best Dragonairs. The Dragonair with Twister is okay. I don't think it's amazing, but there is a chance that you get two heads and then you discard two energy and you're just laughing at that point. So it is a very cool card, but very risky. And then the Dragonair that does flip 2 coins, 70 damage for each heads, might be the most aggressive, potentially killing basics as early as turn 2. And then the Dragonair on the far right is potentially the worst. But the thing is, it's a very lovely art. It's a very pretty card. So if you just want to bling out the deck as much as possible, then that Dragonair might be the best one. Also, very quickly, some just general dragon support for Dragonite. Lance is a great card in dragon decks, just in general. I know this isn't supposed to be like a dragon GLC video as much as it is a Dragonite video, but still, Lance, definitely recommend this. Also, this Dratini from Sun and Moon. So yeah, the Dragonair and Dratini from Sun and Moon. If you just want something easy to pick up, it's these guys. So yeah, very good Dratini. Signs of Evolution allows you to search your deck for another Dratini, which, spoiler alert, you can't do that because it's singleton. You do get the Dragonair and your Dragonite, so just fantastic attack, really, and hopefully you don't get hit with like an N or an I don't know. And then, of course, double Dragon Energy will be crucial in paying some of these awkward attack costs. So yeah, that's kind of it for the support, though, and we can take a look at our first Dragonite, which is from Dragon Vault. Now, honestly, I don't think this card is terrible. It's not great by any stretch of the imagination, but Hurricane Tail, if you get lucky with those coin flips, you will be able to KO a lot of different Pokemon, with the exception of maybe something that's extra tanky, like Wailord, but that's kind of a rare exception. Most of the time, you will be able to KO a lot of Pokemon with Hurricane Tail, which is cool. Hyper Beam is just awful. 3 energy is a lot to sink in just to do 50 damage, even if there is a chance that you discard energy, but either way, this Dragonite, funny enough, I don't think is the worst Dragonite in this video, despite being the oldest, so that's a good sign for things to come. But yeah, definitely, a playable card, I guess, in some situations. But yeah, it's not very good. We do have better options here. Next up is the one from Plasma Freeze, which I do think is a bit better, purely for the first attack. Now for 3 colorless, Deafen does a whopping 60 damage, yay. However, your opponent can't play any item cards from his or her hand during his or her next turn. And just doing damage and item locking isn't really much of a thing in GLC. It does exist, but it is fairly rare to be doing damage while also, item locking. And doing 60, it's not like the worst amount of damage to be doing in most situations. I grant it's not killing anything that's not a basic, but the thing is, if you're item locking, then hopefully your opponent will never be able to rare candy out of that basic. So, stuff this Vileplume because you can KO Oddish before they rare candy Vileplume and item lock you as well. So yeah, I still think Defen's quite cool. I think this is like marginally more playable than the other one, and item locking isn't really a thing for dragons in GLC, I don't think. So having this as a nice option, it's there basically if you ever wanted to do like a weird control style deck for dragons. But yeah, it's a cool card. Next up is we have 2 Dragonites from Roaring Skies. I'll get the one on the right out of the way immediately. I don't think it's pure garbage, but just healing all damage when you evolve it. Seems like a bit of a waste of a stage 2 slot. You'd much rather your stage 2 Pokemon offer something a bit more than just a 1 per time heal, really. and Match Press only doing 80 damage for 3 energy, and then you flip 2 coins, both of them are heads. So again, these Dragonites are relying on you getting a bit lucky, but if both are heads, you do paralyze, which is cool, but so that's always going to get like a 2-hit KO on other stage 2s, really, if you're able to get the paralysis off and they don't have more than 160 HP. But it's either way, it's kind of cool. It's not the worst. It's not great, And if I had to play a Dragonite, by the way, I'd play this one on the left. Now, I didn't know this until recently, but apparently ancient traits are legal in GLC. You learn something every day. But yeah, this Dragonite has the very cool effect, the very cool ancient trait, Plus, which says if your opponent's Pokemon is knocked out by damage from this Dragonite, you get to take one more prize card, which is kind of crazy. Now, to balance this out, the attack that actually does damage, Heavy Impact, costs a whopping 5 energy and does 150, which used to be pretty good, but to be honest, with power creep, there's a lot of relevant stage 2s now in GLC that have like 160 plus HP, so Heavy Impact isn't strictly a great move. But if you're able to take at least 2 prize cards with this, then I think it's worth it. And, if you're able to KO a Pokemon, take 2 prize cards, and then maybe even get just 1 attack into another Pokemon, not even finish it off, just get 1 more attack in, then I think it's more than worth it. So how are you getting the energy in there? Well, we did talk about that Dragonite earlier, which can accelerate the energy, and we do have double Dragon Energy. Aside from that, I don't think there's too many options. I guess like Gardenia's Vigor is alright here. We could use Gardenia's Vigor. But aside from that, yeah, you might have to rely on your own Wrapped in Wind in order to accelerate some energy. But it's quite an expensive attack. Hopefully you'll be able to heal Dragonite in time to use Heavy Impact. But yeah, definitely the coolest Dragonite in my opinion in GLC, just for the additional prize taking. But yeah, very cool card. Next up though is we have, just in my opinion, potentially the worst Dragonite on this list. Now, I'm not saying this card is pure garbage, but it's pretty close, right? Dragon Wave for a Grass, a Lightning, does 130, and you discard a Grass and a Lightning from this Pokemon. So you've got 2 awkward energy on there on your Dragon Pokemon just to do 130, which isn't really carrying a lot of Pokemon. I know we said 60 was all right earlier on in the video, but 130, you're carrying some stage 1s, you're carrying some stage 2s, but not really many, except for like Beedrill or some random grass Pokemon that's really fragile. It's like Dragon Wave just isn't really that good. And then Giant Tail, when I first read this card, I was like, oh, for 4 energy, 200 damage might be worth it on a coin flip, right? No, Giant Tail is for 5 energy. This is so expensive, If I'm going to sink 5 energy into Dragonite, I want to be able to take another prize card and not have a 50% chance of not doing any damage. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this Dragonite. If you play this Dragonite in GLC, by the way, let me know like how you play it. How do you make it good? Because to be honest, it's a bit of a shame that the Sun and Moon Dratini and the Sun and Moon Dragonite are arguably like the best pre-evolutions, but the Sun and Moon Dragonite is so bad. I just find that really funny for some reason. But yeah, this Dragonite, shockingly bad in my opinion. But yeah, definitely better choices. Then we get to Teamup, which is probably the Dragonite that sees the most play, I would say. Has the ability Fast Call that says you may search your deck for a supporter card once in your turn, which is pretty cool. Now, we do have the new Tatsugiri coming out, which will be joining us very shortly, like very shortly actually, which allow you to look at the top 6 cards of your deck and take a supporter card, which is definitely going to be very, very good in Dragon decks. But honestly, I don't think Tatsugiri strictly replaces Dragonite, but Tatsugiri just existing gives you more of a reason not just to play this Dragonite, but also play a Dragonite that could, attack or do something a bit more interesting. That's obviously just leaning into the more personal preference and less of the how do I make my deck as consistent as possible mindset. And, maybe if you're a competitive player, then one will certainly matter more than the other. But either way, Fast Call is still a very good ability, and, it's definitely a reason why this Dragonite sees the most play, really. So yeah. And Dragon Claw 120, yeah, that's all right, but it's still doing, way more than most of the other Dragonites are doing. But yeah, cool one overall. Next up is Unified Minds. I kind of like this one, actually. It's also available in a theme deck, funny enough, which is quite cool. Has the ability Hurricane Charge, which says once your turn, you may search your deck for a water and a lightning energy from your hand. I messed that up, didn't I? Yeah, it's from your hand. It's not from your deck. Scratch that. Yeah, you can attach them from your hand to your Pokemon in any way you like, which is quite nice. So it's not just Dragonite, it's just any Pokemon, and yeah, it's quite nice. Dragon Impact for 4 energy, but bear in mind, we can pay 2 of this. So as long as we manually attach the previous turn, we can pull this off in one go, which is cool. There's 170, but you do have to discard 3 energy, which I still think is pretty much worth it. So Yeah, I think this card is actually pretty cool. It's a very playable card. I like the ramping energy just because there's not much of it in GLC, so especially for dragon types, really. So yeah, I think so a lot here, but I do like it. It's definitely pretty cool. Yeah, yeah, not much else to say apart from it's, I guess, a wee bit worse than this one, but it's still a cool wave accelerating energy, and I do appreciate it for that. So yeah, pretty cool. Next up, though, is the Dragonite from 151, which has the most HP, I believe, out of all of them, at 108 HP. And it has the moderately useless ability Jet Cruise, which says your Pokemon in play have no retreat cost. Why do I think this is a useless ability? And it's because we have items, well, tools now, like Air Balloon that just reduce your retreat cost by 2, or Float Stone, which gives you no retreat. Personally, I don't think reducing retreat cost on an ability is that impressive in this day and age, frankly. I just don't think it's that impressive. It prevents your opponent from doing things like boss, something that has a high retreat cost and it gets stuck in the active. Like, yeah, that is a win con in GLC because you can only play like 3 or 4 switching cards in your deck, and they're all really hard to find most of the time. But either way, I don't think Jet Cruise is worth it. But then Dragon Pulse for just 2 energy does 180, and you have to discard the top 2 cards of your deck. So milling 2 yourself every turn is a bit bad, but at the same time, if you're getting a 1-hit kill with this guy every time you attack, that's a pretty good trade-off, right? And this guy, unlike most of the other Dragonites, doesn't have a weakness. So you're not weak to other dragons and you're not weak to fairies. So that's cool. But yeah, pretty good Dragonite overall. I would definitely say this is a bit more playable than most of the other ones. Again, I would have to say my favorite Dragonite is that one from, scroll back a bit, to Roaring Skies, the one with the Ancient Trait. I just think it's so cool, but probably a bit of personal bias because I love Ancient Traits so much. But yeah, let me know which is your favorite Dragonite down below. And thanks for watching. I do a new set review for GLC with each new release, so subscribe if you're interested in being updated in all the latest GLC stuff. I try and make other GLC videos, I guess, like this, but it is difficult to come up with content sometimes without involving IRL. But if you want to dive into the competitive side, I would recommend checking out Omnipoke and, of course, the format creator Tricky Jim. They've both done fantastic videos and guides for each type. And yes, I will say this at the end of each video I do in this series because I think it's important to highlight them. So yeah, thank you for watching. And yeah, let me know what you think down below. And as always, thank you for watching.